my name is Brian Fisher, and this is our latest podcast from the Hoops and Dreams QPR production team. I'm joined once more by Dave and James, both should be well known to all of you by now, but Dave is our superb editor, and James is the creator of the Hoops and Dreams QPR Forum. Okay, it was announced a week or so before the end of the last season that Mark Warburton's contract was not being extended for whatever reason. And so the hunt was on for a replacement. On the Hoops and Dreams forum, there was almost a sense of doom or panic as names such as Sherwood and Campbell were mentioned as serious candidates. And concerns that there are also concerns that some of the younger managers in the lower leagues were being considered as well, and there's worries about their experience. But in the end, it was announced today that QPR, after what has been described as a rigorous recruitment process, would be appointing Michael Beale on a 3-year contract as the head coach. So what do we know about Mick Beale, who has been Steve Gerrard's deputy manager at Rangers and at Aston Villa? Well, he's 41 years old. And his ambition was to become a manager at the age of 40. He nearly made that. He came through the Charlton development squad at the same time as Jermaine Defoe. As well as deputising for Steve Gerrard, he's also had senior coaching roles at both Chelsea and Liverpool. And it was at the latter, apparently, that he developed his ideas, his coaching ethos, apparently. He's also spent 8 years with Sao Paulo in Brazil and is highly rated by those in the sport. These extracts are from a TalkSport article, difficult to say that. Just before he helped steer Rangers to their first Scottish League title in 10 years, Steven Gerrard emphasised just how much Beale was involved in getting the best of the players at Ibrox, with the London-born coach taking most of their training sessions. And he said, "I haven't had the luxury of retiring early from the game," which is a bit ironic, or not being a player in terms of having that much pitch time to really become a coach for the past 20 years, like a Brendan Rodgers, a Jose Mourinho, or a Michael Beale. It would take me 15 to 20 years to become as good as Michael Beale as an on-pitch coach, delivering sessions on a daily basis. So I let Mick be Mick Beale because he's the expert." And ex-Rangers striker Kyle Lafferty described Gerrard's assistant as being the brains behind the side's tactics, saying, "The longer I was there, I started to realise Michael Beale, I think he's the man behind it. No disrespect to Steve Gerrard, who I think is an amazing manager, but Michael Beale is behind the scenes, and I think he's the brains behind it. Tactically, he's amazing. I think he could step up to be a manager because he's that good." Meanwhile, former Rangers star Jermaine Defoe also echoed Gerrard's praise of Beale, dubbing the coach a genius, going on to say, "He's impressed me in a big way. When I sat down and spoke to Stevie before I signed, he said, 'You might know Mick Beale. He is proper.' The way I see it is, in terms of tactics and stuff like that, he is up there. His attention to detail and how he puts his points across for people to understand." When Alfredo, he's on about Morelos, got suspended, Mick came to me and said, "JD, I'm going to tweak the system so it's better for you." He said, "I'm going to bring in 2 number 10s in the middle, so they're close to you, so it's easier for you." We've not looked back. It's unbelievable. The fact that he had that idea and he did that, it's a genius. So my first question to my guests, are you happy with the appointment of Michael Beale? I'll start with Dave, as he's at the top.
Well, yeah, I mean, having heard all that, you might as well just give us the trophy now, Martin. If we're going to win the league next year, it's amazing.
Was a good write-up.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. I think of all the you mentioned some of the ones we were linked with before, like Tim Sherwood, and that could have been a very different podcast, I think, if that happened. But it's quite exciting. He sounds really positive. He's similar in a kind of other managers that have done well in the last few years, like I've gone from coaching backgrounds into managing, like Steve Cooper at Forest, Critchley at Blackpool. Even like further back, you go to Brendan Rodgers, come from coaching at Chelsea in the academy to being a manager. So it kind of fits in with that sort of trend and people that are doing well. And he fits in with their style of play and what the club want to do. So I think it's really positive. He sounds too good to be true.
I knew you were going to say James.
Well, yeah, he's gone from somebody that none of us had heard of 3 to 4 days ago to now he's the Messiah, isn't he? Because we've been listening to what you're just saying there and finding things on different podcasts that he's been on. And like you said at the start, at least he's not Sol Campbell or Joey Barton or someone like that. I've spent the most of the last month just thinking, is there any chance we can get Mark Warburton back? Because the list was just so uninspiring and it wasn't changing. It was always the same 5 or 6 names that we kept getting linked with. Obviously, Ainsworth, people would have probably been happy for him to come back, but there was always the big question mark about how he's going to play. And he might have been fine, but maybe he's been interviewed and the club know why they haven't chosen him. Manning, I felt, was just someone like, you could Google League One up-and-coming managers and Liam Manning would come up, and it just felt like the cheat option to maybe go with him because any club could find that one. And it does seem with Beale that they've at least done some serious due diligence, and there's quotes obviously in the announcement saying that they've looked at stats and all sorts to try and get the right appointment. And so, yeah, I think it is the right choice, and just very relieved it's not some of the people we feared it may be over the last month.
That about sums it up, I think. I mean, my first thought was, I'm so happy we've finally got somebody. That's the stage I was at when I was thinking about how do we progress as a club when we're getting towards pre-season, without knowing the contracts, without knowing who we're going to be bringing in to suit the style of the new manager. So I'm really pleased in that respect. I mean, it really is a short season, a short close season. We really do need to step up now. It's almost too late even now. So I'm just wishing him well.
You see some clubs are already starting to do some decent signings, and the longer we didn't have a manager, we were in limbo, weren't we? So at least we've now can step on and see what we can do in terms of the transfer market with a proper manager.
Yeah, and I suppose we also know one of the pre-season matches will probably be against Aston Villa.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
I'm sure that was written into the contract. Anyway, there was mention on the Hoops and Dreams forum that whilst Beale is undoubtedly a good coach, that does not mean he automatically becomes a good manager as well. Unlike other posted names, it is true that Beale has not managed in the lower divisions first, and it's equally true that coaching in development setups is not that unusual. Lots of future managers do this, and that in itself doesn't turn you into a good manager. So your thoughts on this, James?
It's one of those where if we don't appoint him, then who? I come back to what I said before. There's going to be question marks with all managers. Ainsworth, there was a question mark about his style of play. You could have even Liam Manning. He was linked for most of the month. He hasn't got that much experience. And just because he's not managed at this level, he has managed. He's managed under 23 teams. He's managed youth teams. He knows how to manage a team. It's just going to be the question mark with him is, how is he going to respond after we've lost 4 in a row when the fans are screaming Beale out? Or it's going to be that, isn't it? Or when there's a player knocking on his door saying, why are you not playing me and playing him? And that's, to me, the question mark. But everything I've read about his philosophies of football and how much he loves coaching, and he seems to want players to enjoy playing and play on the front foot, all of that, it bodes well. I do hope, fingers crossed.
Dave?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously risks attached to it. He's not been a manager before, so it is going into the unknown. But like James said, there's a risk with whoever you appoint. There's a risk. If you keep Mark Warburton, there's a risk that you lose the first 3 games and you go, oh, hold up, we ain't won for months, and you start again. There's a risk with you can appoint Pep Guardiola, and there's risks with it. Not probably smaller than what we've got, but there are risks. But yeah, I mean, we just have to see how it goes as he goes along. I'm sure he'll learn. He seems like a fast learner, and he seems very ambitious as well. I think the club give him a 3-year deal. They obviously got a lot of belief in him. That's not something they've done with recent managers. They haven't given that long a contract out.
That's true.
Yeah, you're right. He's definitely ambitious, that word that you said there, because one of the things I listen to, he says quite openly, I want to manage. Then he says he wants to manage abroad. He even said that he admired Terry Venables going to Barcelona, which ironically was from QPR, and he wouldn't have known at the time he was going to end up managing QPR himself. But he's definitely ambitious. So I don't think he's going to take this appointment lightly. I can imagine he's going to be working day and night to make it work, and that hopefully bodes well for QPR as well.
Yeah, does feel like he's picked his opportunity. He'd had chances to go other clubs and he turned them down. So he obviously feels there's something right at this club for us to move forward. Hopefully he's right.
So can we take it then that from what you've just said, James, that we can expect him to be taking QPR abroad?
I can imagine him taking us on some definite coaching camps and things like that, because he talks about he just loves 11 a.m. in the morning. In one of the things I listen to, gets to 11 a.m. and that's his bread and butter. He even called himself the nutty professor with how he comes up with his training plans and games to play. And like I say, everything sounds great. It's just how going to be once we lose the first friendly 3-0 and everyone's Beale out. It's just going to be everyone calming down, give him some time. And let's see where we go. He's going to need the season. Let's not have a knee jerk if things aren't going so well. I can't see us going down with the squad we've got. Let's let him bed in, do what he needs to do, assess the team. But you just know what it's like. We're going to probably play Boreham Wood, lose 2-0 on the first friendly, and everyone's like, what have we done? Why didn't we keep Warburton? We need to give it time. And I do believe everything I've read sounds positive. And I come back to what I said. If it's not him, then who? Fair enough, the rest of the list was terrible. But if you want to go above that list that we had of potential names, we're not going to attract the type of name that's better than someone like Michael Beale. So we have to be happy with what we've got, get behind him and see where we end up.
Yeah. And I think also for when we're talking about the problems we have with teams starting with B, we definitely should omit Boreham Wood from our pre-season.
I don't know if we're playing them. I just made
B teams. I don't know why. Anyway, players have mentioned that he organises all the tactical planning at Aston Villa. It's not just the coaching. So he's used to assessing the players and also the opponent's players as well, and working out how he's going to play the game against them. So he's got that tactical nuance as well. I think there is a risk in him stepping up from coach to manager. Obviously there is, but my feeling is that it should not be beyond him. Of course, time will tell. Time's a great thing for that. So next question. Is it the case that the time spent as a coach is important but not essential in the modern game? And I'm thinking about Chris Ramsey here, who was an excellent coach, but unable to quickly transfer his skills to managing. Dave?
Yeah, I think you need more than just coaching skills. Like you said, with Ramsey, he's apparently a very good coach, but I don't think he had the man management that you kind of need to be a proper football manager. And that's what he's going to need. He's going to need to be able to deal with players, deal with disappointed players. I think when you're a coach, you don't have to deal with disappointed players. Let the manager deal with that. Now he's not going to be able to pick everyone. He's going to have angry players coming in on a Monday after they got beat or they've not been picked. So it's going to be all a new experience for him. But, that's going to be the test for him, really, rather than his coaching attributes. He's obviously good at that. But he's going to need to manage the players and the fans a little bit as well, because he needs to keep the fans on side. We're obviously going to have bad runs during the season. It always happens. And, you need to keep the fans on side when that happens.
This is QPR, so we must expect that. James?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I listened to with him, he was talking about how he likes to say about your personal ambitions and where do you want to be. And I can imagine him going in and actually sitting down and having a one-to-one meeting with every player when they return. And I think that's about how he'll go about it, and he'll get to know every player and what they want to achieve and where they want to be. And I think that'll then stand him in good stead going forward, because he'll get a relationship with all the players. Maybe that's the route I think he will potentially take. We're just not going to know how it's going to be until a couple of months down the line, are we? You've got to give him that time, like I said at the start. All the plaudits and all the sound bites, they sound great. I've been drawn in by them. I think he sounds like the most promising option. But I myself, if we lose the first 4 matches this season, I know for a fact, and we all do it, we're going to be saying, what have the club done here? If we win the first 4 games, we're all going to say, amazing, thank God we took that month to take the time and appoint him. It's just, at this point in time, all we can go off is what we've heard, what we know. And to me, he sounds like the best option. And I think something as well that I wanted to say is we've got the training ground coming, and I think that will have appealed to him. You know, Dave, you said before how he's had options to go, and he's chosen us. I think that will have played a big part in it. I imagine from what I've heard again that he will want to oversee everything at the club, and he'll know youth team players' names, and he'll probably try and get them to come and join the first team for a training session when we're all at the same base. And I think the club will have looked at that as well and seen that he's ideal for that part of what the club want to do.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'll throw another unknown at you now. So do you think he's appointed as head coach? Do you think he will actually be managing everything for the first team squad? I mean, will he be doing the contract decisions? Will he be doing the one saying, I want this player and I want that player gone? Is it going to be him? So start off with you again, James.
He'll have to have some influence on it, won't he? Because if he says, we've been training for a month and I really don't fancy this player, he's not going to be involved in my plans, the club will have to try and offload him because he's just dead money on the wage bill, isn't he? He is, I know he's been announced as the head coach, but he will have a big say on incomings and outgoings. And it'll probably be what it was before. We've seen some recent interviews, haven't we, with people, Andy Belk and so on. It does seem to be like a bit of a committee where someone will come forward with the name, and then Les will maybe talk to someone, and Lee Hughes will negotiate things. I don't think it will be him making a sole decision, but he'll have a lot of input, and he might have good contacts, and he'll obviously then go to Les and say, look, what about this? And then they'll say, no, it's not within budget. It'll all work probably quite amicably with that. That's what I think of that.
Dave, same?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I was reading about Adoma being offered a new deal on West London Sport yesterday. They were saying it was kind of dependent on if the new manager wants him or not. Obviously, they'll probably agree terms, but if he doesn't want him, then they obviously won't agree it. But I think he'll have a say. I think similar to what Warburton had, I think if there's a player that he desperately wants, as long as he fits in with the budget and everything, then I'm sure the club will let him do it. No,
I agree. No, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I mean, I must admit, I feel that he will be as much a manager as is possible to be. I feel that he's come here on that understanding that he doesn't want to just be a coach. He wants to be the manager. I mean, otherwise, what's the point of moving? He's quite successful where he is. Anyway.
He's been a coach who's had quite a lot of influence from what we've heard. So I imagine he'll do the same. He'll let his coaches have quite a big say in how the training sessions run, how things work with the players. And he seemed to suggest, which I think might happen, is he'll have quite a big coaching staff, because he talked in one of the interviews about how there was a defence coach, a midfield coach, an attacking coach, like a first team coach who oversee them, and then he oversees the first team coach, and they all come together and they meet hours before training and talk about what they're going to do, and you talk to this player. I think it will have quite a big coaching network with him, and that is probably what's going to be announced in a few days, obviously, is whether he keeps Eustace or whether he wants a wider kind of coaching team around him. I think that's something that could be different to what we've seen before.
So do you think John Eustace? I was going to say, do you think John Eustace will still be retained for that reason?
I don't think he will, because I think he was probably someone they've spoken to, and he might now have his nose out of joint. I'd like to see him stay, but I think as well that Beale will have people he wants to. He'll have contacts and people he maybe sees who he could now promote from whatever position they've been at Villa or Liverpool or Rangers, and I think he'll have a whole team of people around him. Obviously, Warnock had Eustace and Banfield. I think with Beale, it's going to be him plus maybe 5 or 6 others who all have very specific roles within the team.
So, Dave, do you think we'll see Stevie Gerrard here as his assistant?
Maybe if things don't start well for him. You never know. It might be a role reversal. But no, I think on Eustace, I think he might end up going wherever Warburton ends up. If Warburton takes it, I'm sure he'll get a job pretty soon. I think Eustace might end up going with him.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It really does. Okay, so what changes in the style of play can we expect from Mick Beale? This to you, Dave, I think.
Well, kind of from what we've read, he said he's very much front foot. It's not too dissimilar to what we've been doing, really. I think maybe a bit more front foot. He spoke a lot about he plays with a back four, so you'd assume that would happen. And I think from what I've read and heard, he's very keen on his fullbacks being a big part of his teams. So I think that's going to be important. I don't think our fullbacks are particularly strong as we've got at the minute. So that's an area they're going to need to get right when they buy players this summer.
Haven't even got a left back, have we, at the time of speaking?
You know, I've watched a little bit of Glasgow Rangers when Gerrard was there, and their fullbacks were key to how they played. So I imagine that's what he'll do here as well.
That's interesting that you mentioned that, Dave, because when you read what he was saying about dividing the pitch up into 3 sections, you know, you've obviously got your defensive third and the middle third and then the attacking third. He was saying that in the middle third, that's where I want to get the ball back. If we lose possession, I want to grab it there because I can do the most damage from there rather than up front where it's, you know, your options are perhaps lessened. To do that with a back four is going to be difficult. The right back and the left back are really going to be key there to forcing issues in the middle third. That's what it seems to me anyway. I think the truth of the matter is, though, this is all very much a guesswork thing, isn't it? We really don't know what's going to happen. We'll see anyway. I'm hoping that the attractive possession-based attacking football that we've had up to now continues, and it sounds as though it will. I agree with you, Dave, on what you were saying. Let's just hope it does, because I really enjoyed it last season, and I want it to happen again. Any other comments, Dave?
No, I think a lot of it's going to depend, no matter who the management's going to be, is going to depend on who they sign in the summer. They're going to need to strengthen. They need pace in the team. They need fullbacks. They probably need something up front. They've lost Gray and Austin are both gone. They're going to need, you know, it doesn't matter how good the manager is. If the players aren't good enough, he's not going to get very far. So they're going to need to get that right this summer. And obviously there's not going to be a hell of a lot of money to spend. So I'm assuming you try and use the loan market or any free transfers, that kind of thing.
He's going to hit the ground running then, isn't he, James?
Yeah. If he can keep hold of the core nucleus of the team that we've got, especially Willock and Chair, it sounds like they'll be perfect for his team, because he says that he obviously has a very structured first 2 thirds and then the final third very open and carefree where they want to go, and that's ideal for them. But losing 1, 2 of them and everything's up in the air, and it doesn't matter how good your coaching is. He says himself in one of the things, it's about your players. You can have all the tactics in the world, you need good players. And players who specifically suit certain roles. So recruitment is going to be key. Like you've both just said, we need better fullbacks. We're going to need definitely someone who's going to put the ball in the net more than what we saw last season. Yeah. If not more. Maybe he's going to give Sinclair Armstrong a chance and the younger players. And we don't know how good they are. I'm not saying that he's the answer, but he's obviously probably going to have as part of his remit that you have to give these lads a chance, especially like when we saw with Warburton, how he wouldn't even name certain people on the bench when he only had 4 or 5 subs or whatever. And I think that has to change.
That was odd.
But if we keep Dieng, Dickey, Dunn, Field, Willock, Chair, you've got Amos, Dykes, if he's raring to go. We've seen when he performs, he is a good striker at this level. He just doesn't do it consistently enough. But that team that we just said there, that is a very, very good team. That's the team that had us knocking in the top 6 for most of last season. Sort out those few people that are missing, and we could have a good season, especially if he is as good as we all hope he's going to be.
Okay. Any other comments? Otherwise, right. Well, that ends our special podcast on the appointment of Michael Beale as the head coach at the club that we love. As we all know, hindsight is wonderful, but I think this is a positive move for all involved, and I wish the new gaffer well. Whether he turns out to be James's Messiah or not, we'll have to see. If you have any comments from this podcast, please add them on the Hoops and Dreams forum. If not, on the YouTube channel. We thank you for your time, and my thanks to James and to Dave yet again for dragging you out from whatever it is that you were doing before. This has been a Hoops and Dreams QPR production. My name is Brian Fisher.
We know who we are. You know who we are. We are QPR.